Chapter 15. Duanes Fruit Jr. stood motionless in the driveway, his back to the house. He appeared to be watching the sun go down. "Hi, Smoke. What's up?" said Nick. And the kid turned around. Nick saw that he was still wearing the Truman School blazer and necktie. "Hey, Waters." Smoke looked uneasy about being there, almost shy. "Listen, dude, I need to borrow your biology book. I'll give it back to you tomorrow." "No problem," Nick said. "I missed the last part of class today. Did Wacko Waxmo give us homework?" "Don't worry about him. He's no longer a factor." "What do you mean?" "He's history, man." Smoke made a slashing motion across his throat. "Gone. Done. Over." That did not sound good. Nick experienced a moment of dread. "What happened? Did he die or something?" Smoke chuckled. "Relax, man. Waxmo ain't dead. Nobody laid a finger on him, but after what he did to you today, why do you care?" Nick was mildly embarrassed to hear that the kid mentioned the scene in the class when the lunatic substitute had ordered Nick to sing a Christmas song, and Marta piped up in his defense. Nick half expected Smoke to make fun of him for letting a girl fight his battles. He said it was no big deal. "I don't want anything bad happen to the guy." "That's real sweet. Can I have your book now? I'm late somewhere." "Sure," Nick said, and he went to the house. His mother intercepted him before he got to the room. "Who's that boy?" she asked. "Why'd you invite him in? Why didn't you invite him in?" "It's Duanes Fruit Jr. "The pencil eater? But he looks so neat and normal." "Neat maybe, definitely not normal," said Nick. The biology book was at the bottom of his cluttered backpack. He hurried back outside and handed it Smoke, who was waiting on the motorcycle. Then he put his leather riding gloves on, also a helmet with a black plastic face shield. Nick could no longer see his expression. "Smoke, can I ask you something? How come you need to borrow the book?" "Because I lost my backpack." "What do you mean? Why do we need the book if you don't have any homework?" Smoke didn't answer right away. He tucked the book under her arm and kick-started the motorcycle. "Because I gotta study," he said. Nick could barely hear him. "What?" "I got a review for the exam," he shouted through the face mask. "What exam?" Nick wondered, and he motioned for the kid to wait. Nick wanted to ask him about the fire at the Black Vine Swamp, and if he was the person that Marta had seen riding shotgun in Mrs. Starch's blue Prius, and also if he was acquaintance with the man named Twilly, who claimed to be Mrs. Starch's nephew. But most of all, Nick wanted to find out if Duanes Fruit Jr. knew where Mrs. Starch was. "Can you shut off the bike for a minute?" he yelled. The kid revved the engine louder. "Please, it's important." "How's your dad?" Smoke shouted, catching Nick off guard. "He's doing good. He came home today," Nick hollered. "Hey, I really need to talk to you." Smoke gave a slight wave and roared down the street. Nick's mother opened the door. "What'd he want?" she asked. "To borrow a book," Nick said, "and I have no idea why he picked me to ask. Maybe he doesn't have any other friends. But he hardly said 5 words to me since elementary school. I wouldn't exactly call him a friend." "Well, maybe he thinks you are," Nick's mom said. "Now go help your father. He's determined to have a shower, and I don't want him falling down and breaking his butt, along with everything else." "Who's going to watch him while I'm at school when you're at work?" "He says he's going to take care of himself, Nicky. But what about the rehab?" Guess what he asked me to buy for him?" "Baseballs," Nick said. "Yep," his mother made a pitching motion. 4 dozen baseballs is what he wants. I guess he's going to have to throw that darn net all day long. Can you believe it? He just got out of the hospital." "Oh, I believe it," said Nick. He couldn't have been any happier. When Dr. Dressler arrived at the Truman School early the next day, he found a note stuck to the office door asking him to call Wendell Waxmo as soon as possible. Dr. Dressler had no desire to speak to Wendell Waxmo first thing in the morning. In truth, he preferred not to speak to Wendell Waxmo at all. The man was a total flake, a menace to the classroom. Not a day went by that Dr. Dressler didn't receive irate phone calls from parents about complaining about Wendell Waxmo's nutty antics and demanding that he be fired or hauled off to the psychiatric institution. Dr. Dressler always assured them that he would look into the matter properly and take the proper action. He was only stalling, of course, hoping that the word of daily chaos would reach Bunny Starch and that she'd come back to Truman to rescue her pupils to the world's worst substitute. Yet so far, nearing the end of Wendell Waxmo's first week, Mrs. Starch remained silent and out of sight. Dr. Dressler didn't know how much longer he could fend off the angry mothers and fathers before they took their complaints to the Board of Trustees. The headmaster even called Mrs. Starch's answer machine and left a message pretending to complain about Wendell Waxmill's bad behavior, inquiring in a gentle but urgent tone when Mrs. Starch might return to school. Yet there was no response. And now Wendell Waxmill himself had called, requesting to speak to Dr. Dressler. As the headmaster reluctantly dialed Wendell Waxmill's phone number, he anticipated being trapped in a conversation that made no sense whatever, just like the substitute's teaching practices. So he was surprised when Wendell Waxmill straightforwardly stated, "I won't be coming back to Truman. I'm afraid you'll have to find another teacher to handle Mrs. Starch's classes. You haven't left me much time. The first bell rings in an hour." "It can't be helped, Dr. Dressler. I'm afraid I'm quite ill." "Well, I'm sorry to hear this. Is it serious?" "Very serious. It's Burmese Jungle Rot." "Excuse me?" "Burmese Jungle Rot," snapped Wendell Waxmill. "Surely you've heard of this disease." "Of course," the headmaster lied. Not that it mattered, but Wendell Waxmill didn't sound sick at all. "It's a terrible condition, Dr. Dressler. Makes your skin turn green and fall off." "Really? And the doctors believe I caught it at your school from the unsanitary conditions in your cafeteria." Dr. Dressler seriously doubted that. On the desktop computer, he pulled up on Yahoo and tried to type in the term jungle rot. Wendell Waxmill said, "I'm in pretty bad shape here, pretty bad shape." "It's a foot fungus," the headmaster remarked after reading the definition. "You can treat it with topical antibiotics, according to this medical website I'm looking at." "Oh, no. That's the regular jungle rot. This is Burmese jungle rot, and it's 100 times worse, and there's no known cure." Said Dr. Dressler. "How in the world would you catch something like that in our cafeteria?" "From the salad bar, no doubt." "Did you put your feet in the salad bar, Wendell?" "The point is, I'm extremely sick." "No kidding," thought Dr. Dressler. "Sick in the head." "Sadly, I won't be returning to teach at Truman, ever," Wendell Waxmill continued. "Kindly remove my name from your list of available substitutes." "No great loss," mused Dr. Dressler, "but now how am I going to lure Bunny Starch back to school?" "I've got a long, painful struggle ahead," Wendell said dramatically. "Well, we'll all be praying for you and your jungle rot to go away." "I appreciate that, Dr. Dressler. But don't even think about suing us." "Oh, God heavens, no." "Because things would get ugly, Wendell. No offense, but you haven't made any friends here at Truman." "Well, I march to the tune of my own tuba," Wendell Waxmill said. "That's one way of putting it, I suppose." The headmaster didn't know what the true reason of Wendell Waxmill leaving was, nor did he intend to waste his time trying to find out. Nothing the man said or did seemed very logical. "Oh, I almost forgot," Wendell Waxmill said. "Please inform my replacement that the students are on page 263. "In what class?" Dr. Dressler asked. "In all the classes," Wendell Waxmill replied. "Today's Friday, and on Friday I always teach 263. No exceptions." The headmaster rolled his eyes and restrained himself from saying something cruel on the phone. "Every Friday the same page?" "Of course." "Focus, focus, focus." "Goodbye, Wendell. Get well soon." "Thank you, Dr. Dressler." Jimmy Lee Bayless hadn't said a word to his boss about the arson investigation, but Drake McBride found out another way. Apparently the helicopter pilot was a blabbermouth. "When did you plan on telling me, or did you?" Drake McBride asked tartly. "I didn't think it was necessary, sir. I got everything under control," Jimmy Lee Bayless said. They were sitting in Drake McBride's office, which had a grand view of Tampa Bay. In the distance, sailboats tacked back and forth across the choppy water. "But you told me you cleared the scene. You told me they never would expect that we did it," Drake McBride said. "There's nothing to worry about, honest." "Don't worry," Drake McBride raised his palms to the sky. "Arson's big-time felony, partner. They put people in prison for it." Jimmy Lee Bayless said, "I made friends with the fire investigator, and we've got no problems. They're after some local kid, a known pyro." Drake McBride rose from his desk and poured himself another cup of black coffee. He didn't offer any Jimmy Lee Bayless, which was just as well because Jimmy Lee Bayless's stomach was a wreck and his lips were still sore from the encounter with Duanes Fruit Jr. "I don't understand what's the big deal," Drake McBride fumed. "It's not like an orphanage got torched. It's just some worthless swamp. This time next year, you won't be able to tell it ever got burnt." "Lightning strikes all the time in those woods," Jimmy Lee Bayless remarked. "Exactamente. Now you're telling me these arson guys are on a rush out to investigate every single wildfire? No way." Drake McBride was indignant. Now all of a sudden it's CSI Everglades. Talk about a waste of taxpayer dollars. Jimmy Lee Bayless knew exactly why the authorities had taken an interest in the fire at the Black Pine Swamp. It's only because there were kids out there, he said. Yeah, well, none of the little boogers got hurt, did they? Not even one got their eyebrows toasted. Drake McBride stood in the picture window and stared pensively out the bay. Bottom line, we had to do something to keep them away from Section 22, and it worked, did it not? Yes, sir. No harm done. And by the way, is that stupid place for a field trip or what? Way out in the middle of nowhere? If that were my class, I'd take them to SeaWorld and watch those killer whales do ballerina dances or whatever. Jimmy Lee Bayless said, or weeky watchy. They got those girls dressed up like mermaids riding on the skis. Now we're talking, Drake McBride finally smiled, though it became serious again when he returned to his desk. Jimmy Lee Bayless, please tell me you've got no evidence that they can tie to Red Diamond to the arson. Please tell me I don't need to start looking for a lawyer and bail bondsman. They haven't got diddly. Jimmy Lee Bayless failed to inform his boss he had dropped a company pen at the crime scene. Drake McBride sat forward and peered at him curiously. What in the heck happened to your face? Did somebody punch you out? Jimmy Lee Bayless chose not to admit that the lunatic with the rabid parrot had tried to remove his lips with a pair of pliers. I cut myself shaving. What were you shaving with, a weed whacker? No big deal, mumbled Jimmy Lee Bayless. Drake McBride fixed him with a steely look that practiced often in the mirror. Look here, partner, you say the situation's under control. Does that mean I can take this afternoon off and go run King Thunderbolt? Absolutely. It is a quest to look like a Texan. Drake McBride had bought a horse named Dumplin, renamed it King Thunderbolt, and was now taking riding lessons. Jimmy Lee Bayless fully expected the animal to throw Drake McBride out of the saddle and stomp on him once he figured out what a phony was. Phony. The arson investigator and I had a real good talk, Jimmy Lee Bayless said, trying to put his boss at ease. Drake McBride leaned back and propped his shiny skateskin boots on the desk. That kid you mentioned, he sounds like a prime suspect. Definitely, Jimmy Lee Bayless said, a bad actor. They should take a real hard look at him. Oh, they are. Any assistance that Red Diamond Energy can offer? They got our full cooperation, Jimmy Lee Bayless said. Drake McBride winked. Give them whatever they need, okay? I'm all over it. One more thing, partner. Sure, Jimmy Lee Bayless hated when Drake McBride called him partner. The guy watched too many old westerns on cable TV. If something else bad happens, Drake McBride said, I don't want to hear about it from my helicopter pilot. Understand? I want to hear it from you. Yes, sir. Speaking of chopper, I need a lift out to the drilling site. Sure thing. After you drop me at the, like that horse place. You mean the stable? Jimmy Lee Bayless said. Right, Drake McBride adjusted the tilt of his cowboy hat. The stable. End of chapter 15.